Welcome to The Other Side of Addiction. Hey, this podcast explores various aspects of addiction, potentially focusing on personal stories of recovery, scientific perspectives, societal impacts, or related topics. This podcast often features discussions with experts, individuals in recovery, therapists, and advocates to offer insights and support to those affected by addiction or seeking more information about it. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I'm your host, Al Richards. And today, with our guest, Andrew Hatch, we are going to be talking about giving wisdom. So, Andrew, thank you, my friend, for taking time out of your afternoon to
Awesome.
spend it with us. Greatly appreciate it. And I'm going to hurry and change the name. I realized I had changed the name down at the bottom.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Feeling blessed to be here today.
Well, again, yeah, thank you so much. Gosh, we met a little bit over a year ago. You're there in St. George, and again, we was talking before we started. The power of technology now to where we can talk to anybody almost anywhere in the world at any time anymore, which is really cool. So, you know, the caption "Giving Wisdom." You and I, we got to spend a little bit of time together. I don't know, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. We came down to St. George and we did some photo shoots and some studio time. And it seems like that whole weekend with the group of people that we surround ourselves with, it's like we were given each other wisdom throughout that whole weekend. Just things that we've
Yeah.
gone through and our thoughts and our feelings and our life and what has made an impact on our life. And all of us have gone through different things. All of us have had our own little journey. Some of the wisdom was kind of the same, but others wasn't. And I think that's what made that whole weekend so cool. So what kind of wisdom, has helped you through your journey?
Man, just, learning that we all and everything in physical existence is all for me, I believe is all part of one big, we can call it consciousness, a higher power, so to say. I mean, we're all just a fragment of that. And learning that and having some kind of curiosity for that, I started developing these study skills out of nowhere. I just started, looking into his old ancient history and what they believed in back in those cultural times. And, I honestly, there's a grand paradox to everything, you know, as above, so below, so within, so without. And I believe that to be true about the human. We are human and we're spiritual. That's the polar opposite, and we tend to forget that. And I honestly feel in my heart of hearts and on my soul that today, and especially in the Western culture, it's imposed on us from a very young age to do away with the spiritual, you know, and I I honestly believe today that if I had some of the knowledge that I have today, I wouldn't have been so erratic and decided to do crazy things out of nowhere because I didn't know what was going on inside of me,
Yeah.
you know. And I think it's sad. I think it's really sad today when I can think about my years in school, know what I got from it, and then know what I was sitting in class and hearing and going, well, that doesn't seem right. And then finding out today that a lot of that stuff's a lie, you know? And it's just built on money, greed, and I'm just not one to be about it today. And so I try to be different
Yeah.
because I know, I try to be my authentic self. And I know that it's a tough job to be authentic. You know, we are taught from a very young age, the ego sets in, and we have to be a certain type of way, and we have to do this, and we have to eat 3 square meals a day, and like certain things are healthy that's not necessarily healthy, and coming to find out more about the biochemistry of our bodies and how like fragile we really are from eternally in out, if that makes
Yeah.
some logical sense. And I through my studying, I know like as you're in the fetus and you're forming, one of the very first sensory organs that's developed is sound. And through my studying, I know that sound is 3 times greater than sight as a sense. So then I think about in the creation of who we are as humans and the biochemistry of us as we're developing, and sound's one of the first sensory organs. We're in a body of water. Water is amplifying anything that gets to it, um, a baby 8 9 months in the womb, you can actually put a flashlight to the side of the belly, and the baby's going to come and check that and be curious about that light that it's inducing in, and you can actually move the flashlight around and get the baby to turn around with it. Doctors do it in the doctor's office,
Hmm.
and so to commonly throughout humankind, we forget that because our culture is so shifted from an 80% spiritual, 20% labor to a 90% labor and worry about how I'm going to do this and how I'm going to get this money to do this to live here, because everything is just taken from us before we even know what's going on.
Well, and I don't know if I would say 80% spiritual. And again, this is just my version, right? I'm not
Yeah,
disagreeing with you because we all have our own thing. And I think that 80% is more like on the religion part of things. Because I'm really starting to see a huge shift where I know at least 4 people this year that have left certain religions. I won't say which ones they are
yeah,
because they're moving into the spiritual realm. And you touched on it right at the beginning. You touched on it how our ancestors, the people that were here way, way long before us, basically there was really no religions. They based everything off of what they saw as far as the universe, what
physically.
was around
Nope.
them, and what
Yeah.
they felt, right? So that's spirituality. And I think a lot of people are starting to catch wind of it and starting to move more into that direction because,
It was stolen from
well,
us.
culture's
In a way, it's
changed.
been
Yeah,
stolen from us,
yeah, things
you
have been
know.
changed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I I I agree 100% with you. I see a shift commonly coming, but I also see a shift of people that are acknowledging those things, and then living and practicing those things is a tough job, and asking yourself where the information is that is they're telling you, or what you're being told is healthy, or that you have to eat 3 meals a day to be healthy and all of that, like it's beyond me. Like, who came up with those things? Who's telling, where did that information come from,
Hmm.
um one of my favorite things that I learned is, yeah, I'm sure you've heard, is breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You've heard that, right? The
Yeah.
terms. Do you
Yep.
know where it comes
Absolutely.
from?
Mm-mm.
It's like a 1950s ad for Folgers Frosted Flake commercials. And civilization and humans have taken that and actually put a belief system into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's just how society has definitely shaped. That's for sure. And I do believe that you're starting to see a little bit more wisdom where people are starting to dig down a little deeper and
Well,
starting to realize, with the things that you have gone through in your life and the battles and the wrong choices, what opened your eyes to go, wait a minute, there's something greater out there, right? There's something different. Because being in the recovery community, you hear it all the time. You have to believe
yeah,
in a higher power. whatever that
Right.
is for you, whether you call it the God, the universe, a rock, a goldfish, whatever it is for that individual, you have to think of
Right.
something greater than you. And I think when, okay, I don't want to say I think, my version of it is when you have that, that's when a lot of this wisdom starts coming in, because you start opening your eyes to a lot of different things. Is that what happened to you?
Yeah, and through my studies, I can actually kind of tell a little bit about what's really going on, or I mean, at least what science is saying today that's chemically happening within my body because I've been in tune with who I am, and I mean, I would be willing to put money on some of the stuff that I can come out of with myself being in tune with who I am. I started going on a physical body journey of, and what triggered that for me was all of this was triggered with just finding the power within myself. I got tired of living everything I've ever been shown, and when I finally got a taste of like, I can say no and I can have my own belief and system of whatever I want, and that my experience is my experience no matter the circumstance around me. That's today what the understanding is. But before, in the beginning, I didn't understand what it was. And it started out with like a simple, like, I don't give a fuck today. And I would do this thing like this, physically grab all my thoughts and throw it right up in the air. And then I would just let my higher powers have control, which is the universe for me. I believe in energy. We all are from energy. We come from sex energy. Sex energy is the most powerful energy, that there is known to man. And religion, like I touching back a little bit on that religion because it's still on my mind a little bit. It's a touchy subject today because as much as it is a division between mankind, it is something that unifies us. It's one of the top three things that unify us besides empires and greed, money, you know. Um, and it can get it can get out of hand. People can get really greedy about things and become rotten. And if you're never taught the certain things about your true self and the essence of who you are, you're gonna forget those things. I just had a 6-month-old baby here at my house, and it is one of the most divine things to be around a child, to watch them interact with the energy around, because when you come into this world, that's all you have is that gut instinct of who you are. You tend to feed off the energy around in the room, and it's evident in everything that we do. As humans, as we're coming up, we have the terrible twos, and people are so like, oh well, why the terrible twos? There's the theory that I have. Once a baby develops walking skills and starts curiosity and starts knocking things off the counters and stuff, you tend to yell, hey, ah! A child's soaking that in like a sponge, and I didn't understand that when I was being told that when I was young. I can see that now today because now I see how influenced we are as a people. Everything that is even on the radios, we used to try to keep it off the radios and off the TVs and stuff, but man, like it's just imposed everywhere you go.
Well, and fill in your gut instincts and fill in the energy, learning how to tap into that. It's not an easy thing, especially when you've lived 30, 40, 50 years of your life, because we've been programmed from the outside world by so much, TV, radio, parents, other family members, friends, other
All right.
individuals outside. I mean, we're surrounded by it. It's everywhere that we look. And when you can start tapping into it, you watch other animals. So if you're a person like myself who love the outdoors and love being in the mountains and watching nature, to be able to see them, because they feed off of what they're feeling. right?
Right.
They don't
Right.
have all the tools that we may have, but yet
You could even think of
they
it in a
have
deeper level. Deeper level, you have to watch what they consume too.
them.
Because I mean, all that, and I'm hearing what you're saying. Go ahead, finish.
Well, I'm just saying that if you watch them, I mean, they feed off of that. It's something that they don't ever get rid of. They can't
Right.
because there's not anything else that's out there. You know, we're the only creature, as far as I know, that walk this planet that we hold on to things. I mean,
Well, it's,
an animal can escape almost death, you know, like being out in Africa where a gazoo or whatever the hell you want to call them could be getting some water and a crocodile could come up and almost take it, right? And I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
we would
absolutely.
feed off of that. We would play the victim off of that for who knows how long, where they just shake it off. You see animals out in the wild all the time where they shake it off, especially ducks, and then they just go about their business like it never happened. When us as humans, man, we grab onto it and we're going to feed off of it as much as possible, and the story grows even bigger and bigger and bigger because for some reason we love playing that victim because we
Yeah,
want people to feel for us. And it's crazy,
it's a
we
it's
want
a
people to
form.
feel for us when we have our own feelings, but yet we won't allow our own feelings to feel.
Right. Well, we've never been programmed to feel on our emotions. That's ironically, uh, from in my personal opinion, is a lot of the problems in the world today is because we are told we're not allowed to be in our emotional state of mind. We're not allowed to tap in there, especially if you're a man. In the world today, and it's super sad because when you tuck those away and you throw them into the subconscious, uh, throughout your life, things are going to happen and those things are going to be triggered and then they come up too. And then all of a sudden, man, because you didn't deal with it then or you didn't let it come and wash and go and feel that and try to learn something from what was happening to you instead of like playing that victim mentality, like poor pity me, instead of that, like look at it and be like, what are you trying to show me? What do I need to learn from this? There's a perspective switch and it I don't that's for me, that's what it took, was the perspective switch. And I hear you a lot with the world today. It's a funny thing because it's established in us by the age of 5. It's called free will. We have free will to do as we want. We also have power to create our own visions, you know. Um, but that free will, it comes loaded with the clip of ego, you know, and ego, we have to fit in, you know, we have to be somebody to be somebody, and it's funny you say that because I was just thinking about this, and this is something that still I find so fascinating. Um, there is only one thing that radiates on a higher energy frequency than love. Could you guess what that would be, Al?
Uh, no, because I know love is a really high frequency.
There's only one above it, man, and it
Not
stumped
thinking
me
of it.
for a while. It's authenticity.
Hmm.
They did a study of like 300 people in a room, and they were able to make them feel certain types of emotions, and they were able to captivate that energy and measure it. And authenticity radiated more than love. And in my curious mind, I'm like, why would God do that? If God was so grand enough to put a piece of himself in me, initially making me a piece of divine, okay, um, why would he do that and then want me to be my goofy ass self, or want me to be who I am and be like study and just do me and like find the comfortability of like expressing myself and my passions and like And just knowing that like that's going to be enough to provide for myself, you know, that creativity and that passion is just being taken away, Al.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, and it really is sad. But I've often wondered why that would be, why he would do that. And you know, it's funny because a couple of weeks ago I stumbled on some stuff, and then I had some thoughts, and you know, a grander thing came to me, and so you know, it's like the more that I align with who I am, the more I attract the people that authentically are going to love me for me. And because I've been watching this in the last 4 years of my life, I've been really in tune with watching what's going on and how things are aspiring in all aspects of my life. And intriguingly enough, it's like the more I'm authentically myself, people just don't like it because they don't know how to act. They don't know how to take truths, and like, you know, like there's certain things in this world that beat the naked eye, you know, and it's so true because we only see so much of what you think is reality, and it's not that much, you
hmm,
know.
yeah,
So when you show up as your most authentic self, you know, like I said, you graduate towards people that are going to love you for who you are, and then if you honor the core values of that what you have found within yourself, and you live to who you are truly, um, you call in for opportunities that exceed your expectations beyond measure, you know, and then when you really pursue into your deepest desires and you let that captivate and just find faith that it'll find its way through, like it's like anybody's had one of these in their life. They wanted to be something, or they wanted to do this, and so they put in work, and then they went and achieved it, and they became that. Well, by the age of 30, most people forget that they have that capability of going in back into themselves and saying, okay, what do I want? Because they're so worried about what's imposed on them.
yeah. It's, you know, I've had some coaching sessions to where actually I was being coached, and three of them that I've had done, all three coaches said that I needed to tap into my younger self.
Yeah.
Pick an age where I thought life was really good, it was happy, and tap into that. And it's crazy when you do that because you start bringing the creativity back into your mind. Your imagination starts kicking back in because when we're kids, man, we can imagine all kinds of stuff, right?
Oh,
And then
dude,
we grow into adults and stress of kids and work and bills and whatever else piles on us, and we lose that. And the first time that a coach did that with me, I'm like, well, this is effing stupid. You know, that's what I thought. And
yeah, I mean, that's
I
what
was
you're
just
told.
I was just
Like,
starting my journey though, right? I was just starting to understand things, and I started realizing how much that was helping because when we're kids, we wake up every day. I watch, you know, I've had the awesome pleasure of having three amazing grandkids, and to watch them from the time that they were just born to who they are today, and just seeing how they look at life and how they view life. And I have to tip my hat off to my daughter and her husband. They've done a very, very amazing job raising
it's
these
insane
kids.
the impact that you have on kids these days. I'm
What's
sorry.
that?
The impact that you can have on kids, it's just,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, it's
And just
awesome.
just seeing them grow and seeing how they perceive things, and how they're not afraid to try different stuff. And that is what's so cool about whenever my grandkids want to try something, all they do is go to their parents and like, I want to try this. And they're so good. If there's too many things, they'll say, okay, well, you have to pick. Something's got to go for this to fit in. However, if
Yeah,
there's room, they'll say, okay, let's do it, and give it a shot. And it's
right.
so cool to see that because all of a sudden they start realizing that they're good at something. My youngest granddaughter is a good example. She all of my grandkids are into soccer, and the old one's been into gymnastic. They've been into dance. At least the girls have. My grandson is just soccer, just soccer. That's all he cares. Soccer, soccer, soccer. That's his dream. She wanted to try ice skating. So they go out and they get her some ice skates, and she goes, "Ice, holy crap. You would think that girl had been skating for years."
Yeah, she
And then all
probably,
of a sudden she tells her parents, "You know what? I want to try diving." They're like, "Diving? Okay, let's put you in diving." And I go and watch her in a diving competition, and I'm asking her, I'm like, what got you to choose diving? She goes, "I don't know, Papa. It just looked interesting and I just wanted to give it a try." She wasn't afraid to try.
that's
Now,
awesome.
we get to be adults. And I was just talking with somebody earlier on a different show. We could be at a job that we just cannot stand. We just cringe every day to wake up and go to this job. Or we may be in a relationship that is just, it's not good. It's not healthy, but we're staying in it because we think it's the best thing for the kids.
Yeah,
And is that really what it is? Or is it because it's the fear of going in a different direction that we're not for sure where it's going to end up? And I would almost have to bet 99%, point 0.9 says it's that fear of going in a different direction. But yet when we're kids, we go. We just freaking go. We don't think
right.
about the consequences. And sometimes it gets us in trouble, right? And we've done
Absolutely.
that with adults. We've made wrong choices. But to go that different direction, I think is huge, because before you know it, life is totally different and in a positive way. And it goes back to, again, feeling what's inside of you here. What's that gut instinct?
Think less and feel more, you know? I agree with you 100%. And my thought process and all of what you just put down, it's like when we come out of the womb, we come out of the womb, we are automatically thrown into a survival mode. Nobody's ever taught you how to get out of that survival mode. Al, when's the last time you turned inside and sat still in a room and turned inside and just felt what was going on? Part of that practice that you were being coached upon, like going back and revisiting yourself, I do that a lot, because I'm triggered still today. I have serious abandonment issues. I have trust issues with women that were instilled on uneducated uh, individuals as well. My mom just didn't know. She didn't know because she wasn't taught, and she wasn't taught because she wasn't taught. And that survival mode, we come out. Then we find this comfortability in this survival mode, and we never ever one time do we acknowledge that that happened to us. I mean, have you ever thought of that?
Oh
That when
yeah.
you came out of,
No,
you know,
no. Well, how do I know when I come out of the womb what I'm thinking, right? Because that's
right?
stuff that you don't. But yeah, as you get older and the wisdom starts kicking in, I mean,
Yeah,
that is one of the honors of, and I would have to say blessings too, of getting older, right? You start
right.
calming down a little bit. You start slowing down. You start opening your eyes. You start evaluating things. You start just seeing things how they are, and also realizing that there's a reason why it is the way it is. There's always a lesson behind it, always.
Yeah.
I
And
Anybody that
if
says there's
you
not, I will definitely disagree. However, their version is their version, but there is always a reason why something is happening.
right, and if you really pay attention to those things and you find a consistency of things happening over and over in your life, then it's trying to show you something.
Hmm.
There are those subtle signs. We are born, our pituitary gland and pineal gland, they sit right in the middle of our brain, and as we're being developed in the womb, they act as like a transmitter, an FM transmitter. You're, and when we're in the womb, that's when it starts developing the most, because we're in water and everything's just so amplified, vibrations and everything. That's why we develop a sixth density sense. It's called your gut intuition. They also never tell you that in your gut, that is called your solar plexus, is directly linked to your nervous system, which is called your tree of life. And if you think about it, your tree of life is extended all throughout your whole body, your nervous system, right? And it has all these sensories on top of sensories on top of sensories, and it's always constantly taking in, and it's going back to the brain that's in a black nothingness, free floating in CSF fluid. That's the very first fluid that is created when you are created. They don't know even where it comes from or how it rejuvenates every day. Your body, Al, in your nervous system, CSF fluid is rejuvenated 4 to 5 times a day, up to a half a liter. Now, do you know anything about CSF fluid?
No, I've been learning a lot about the brain, but I haven't heard anything about that.
So look into some CSF fluid. It's the cerebral spinal fluid, and this is part of this education that I believe that has been robbed of us, because every month, part of this process of your CSF fluid and being rejuvenated every month you have a cycle that happens that you didn't even know happens within your body. You may know about it, you may have learned about it recently or whatever. It's called the secret secretion. And in Greek old terms, in ancient times, secretion was secret, obviously, and they knew of this before they even had the knowledge of knowing, or what we assume they had knowledge of knowing. But it's directly linked to CSF fluid, and I'm still trying to learn how those two systems link together, because essentially your nervous system is engulfed. So this is your brain, and here's your elongated brain, which is your animal instinct of you, right? In your brain, you have 4 brains, right? 4 brains. You have a right, a left, your anabolic brain, and then now they're finding out that the heart actually has its own memory base. And so they're saying that the heart is actually the brain that drives everything, because the heart can be radiated 10 feet away. But every month, if you do some research with the cycle of the moon every 29 days, your cerebrum and your brain produces a crystal oil, crystal meaning sacred in Greek terms, is what I was getting to, right? And it travels and ascends up and down your nervous system every month. And on the 27th day, it sits down right in your solar plexus. Funny place to sit, right, Al?
Hmm.
And it does. It sits in your solar plexus for 2 days, dormant. And if you never get in tune with who you are and what your body does naturally and in the processes, and it takes a lot of dedication and self-discipline to get to a point where you can actually tune into your body and feel those things going on, because you are fed so many fake foods, GMO pushed foods. The air is imposed on you. The pituitary gland is one of the most sensitive areas in the whole body, and it's in the middle of your brain. It's highly sensitive for four main things, and those 4 main things have been imposed on every one of us for the last 60 years from American government and civilization. The culture, because we don't know. But those things are like Wi-Fi being one of the number ones. The Wi-Fi affects our brain. Aluminum, which they put in our ozone to help clean, right? Glucose, or whatever it is. I don't know how to pronounce it. That's my bad. and fluoride, fluoride being one of the main ones too.
Yeah,
You
a
know,
lot of that stuff's in our water. It's in our water,
yeah, they do
definitely
it
in our
through
air.
your water.
It's in the majority of our foods, and I think what a lot of people don't understand as well that, and this is stuff that I have recently been learning from my good friend Jessica, because she's freaking very knowledgeable. She's
She's
studied very
she's
hard,
very knowledgeable.
very, very good at it. You know, our gut and our brain are the two most important things. And you were
Well, your
talking
gut's
about
linked
earlier in
directly
the
to the brain.
yeah, you were talking about at the beginning of the show, you know, about how they used to say we have to eat 3 good meals per day and all that. And
Bullshit.
they talk about for our body, right? Well, reality, we need to be talking about nutrition for our brain, because our brain
Right.
and gut is what's running our whole system.
Well, if you get in tune, Al, enough with your body and you do away with all the fucking fake shit, excuse my language, uh, but you do away with all of the fake foods, the GMO foods, and you just try to consciously eat as healthy as you can. You know, for me, I learned that my ancient ancestors would go weeks at times without food. And through my studies, my intermittent fasting brings me a lot of biochemical in myself, like antibodies in myself, if I uh intermittent fast right, you know. And doing those things, you tune into yourself, and then you're initially making new brain nerve ways pathways, and you practice and you practice, you awaken the solar plex brain that's in your gut that you forgot about for a long time when you neglected the little boy in you because you had to be some type of way to get here, to be okay here, there, or what. But you awaken the solar plexus, and this is where you get Kundalini experiences. Kundalini experiences and highly sensitive spiritual existence. You learn of the essence of who you are. You learn. You begin to. For me, I began to learn that I am mind, body, and spirit. You know, I learn and honestly feel in my heart of hearts that God would not put a piece of Himself in me and take that away and say that I'm not a God. You know, I have to treat myself as if I was trying to be just like him or her or whatever that looks like. But I know that comes with pure love and compassion and unity and all of the things. But I try to carry myself day in and day out as much as I can. I'm human. I sometimes sell short. But you start practicing and you start doing those things and you do away and you get into the fasting and man, I'm in the best shape of my life. You biohack your body is what they call it. You biohack your body. Okay. And you just all of a sudden, man, people that run an intermittent fasting diet, they're taking their blood work and trying to inject them with COVID-19 and stuff like that. And our bodies are rejecting it, saying no, because it's not preoccupied over here fighting away this fake food and all of this foreign shit in our bodies, the pain pills and all the shit that they say that you got to have to fight this, to do this. It's just poison, more poison to keep you and get you away from the true essence of who you are.
Yeah.
If everybody listening to this closed their eyes and just looked behind their skull for a moment, you would see a light there. That is you. That is your higher self in you. Everybody knows of this voice. I mean, the perfect example I can give for that voice is like I've been in a relationship where I've cheated before. And when I was in the process of cheating, I had a voice in my head telling me and walking me through, going, hey, man, you probably shouldn't do this because, like, if this happens and you, like, that voice right there is the same voice that goes to the mother that her child gets smashed under a car and stuck under a car without any thought process or any thinking, walks over there and lifts up the car and gets her baby out. It's same powers, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So,
And
oh, go ahead.
So back to the process of what I'm trying to tell people is if you tune in to you start meditating, you start fasting, you start praying and practicing a belief system. We're going to call it a belief system because it's the religion thing. Yeah, I'm not dogging it or anything, but it's all, I mean, people, I know the whole history of the Bible. I mean, if you ask somebody that believed in the Bible, do you know where that was written? Do you know when that was put out? A lot of the time, they're not going to know any history of what they are even believing, which is fine because they found a higher self of religion in some other aspect or whatever, you know? But I honestly believe that if that knowledge was given to us, then this process, when we tune in, we can ascend that oil back up our spine up to the 33rd vertebrae right here. And when it reaches the 33rd vertebrae, our pituitary gland and our pineal gland produce their own oils, one being a milky white substance, one being an oily honey looking substance, DMT, right? These chemicals are in your body already. You're already producing these things, but when they cross, when that oil crosses over these two main nerves in your neck, and they mix with that chemical, the two glands chemicals in your brain, it is amazing what happens, Al. Your body automatically gets 1,000-fold intelligence, has enough intelligence to go throughout your whole body and rejuvenate all the old toxic blood that you've been pumping through your organs for your whole life because you've never been in tune with this process, and rejuvenates all of your blood. All of the dormant cells that have been there, just sitting there, dormant, not knowing what to do, you gain intelligence. This is where people start gaining telepathic communication, floating, the crazy superhuman powers that are of old or mythical that we think is mythical. It is fascinating the things that we're learning today that are so-called mythical that are true.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have experienced that, experienced either being sick or been in an accident, some kind of trauma or mental illness or whatever, and then they come back a totally different person, how their thought patterns fire, how their neurons fire, and a lot of people don't realize too, I believe that, I mean, gosh, we have like 70 billion neurons in our brain. At
Yes,
least that's what one of my guests was saying, and I kind of joked about it. I'm
700
like, I'd have to been the
trillion.
son of a bitch that had to count all those, right? But it's so true because we can unplug
Yeah,
unhealthy neurons and plug in new ones, and it's all by changing our way of thought and the way that we live. And it's never too late.
absolutely.
You're never too young, you're never too old to change, and again, it's just changing that thought pattern, right? We talked about anger, in my mid 20s, I went through 6 months worth of therapy to learn how to control a really bad temper. And a
I
lot of
still
that bad
struggle.
temper came in because I kept everything inside me, right? We talked about that
Yeah,
earlier. And then
yeah,
that fuse finally lit, it was so short, I would explode in a heartbeat.
yeah.
I had to learn new patterns, and it's really helped me because I'll
It's
I'll,
difficult.
I'll speak what's on my mind now because I don't want to hold it in. Because I
Yeah.
know if I hold it in, I'm just allowing it to fester and turn into something that really could end up being bigger than what it really is. And then we add our mind to it, and our mind just starts adding more stuff onto it. And
Well, I mean, when's the last time you were able to be a pure essence and be like, you know what? I didn't like what just happened to me. That really fucking hurt my feelings. Like that is some bullshit. Like you express yourself to what happened in the making of what happened,
yeah,
and then you could figure something out. People aren't going to do that.
no,
People are
no.
so used to just
Well, and it's
walking
it's
over
it's
people.
because the fear of the judgment. It's the
Yeah,
fear of the judgment. And you can always go somewhere where you're alone. I had something, and I don't have a problem even sharing this. I had something happen yesterday where I had to wait till I had some alone time, and literally I just broke down and cried. I mean, I
Yeah,
did. I
no,
was talking to my higher power who I called God, and I just broke down and started crying, just going, I just don't understand. I'm not getting it. Please help me, or at least give me the strength to get through this, and help open the door so I can see why this is happening and the reason why it's going on. And and it's become very, I mean, it took till this morning, right? It really did take till this morning after I had been up about an hour, and all of a sudden all this download just started coming in.
yeah, you
I
start
just started
remembering.
going, okay, okay, I
Yeah.
could kind of make sense of it, but I allowed myself to have these emotions. I allowed myself to go through
Mhm.
whatever I was going through instead of holding it in, going, okay, I'm a man.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to cry. I'm supposed to pull my big boy pants up. I'm supposed to deal with this. Bullshit.
No. Yeah,
Bullshit.
let it flow. Let it
Yeah,
flow and let it
absolutely.
go, baby. Let it
Absolutely.
flow and let it go. Out right here before started with you, I like I was saying, I had a 6-month-old baby here, and I'm interacting with this kid, man, and I'm in my recovery. I'm learning that I'm gifted a little bit, and I'm tuning into those things as I'm speaking. I mean, I wish I could show you the goosebumps and the hair standing straight up from what I'm about to tell, but um, I'm sitting there interacting with this girl, and she's went through some things, and she's telling me about one of her exes that OD'd and died. Uh, oh man, sorry. Come to find out that her this kid that she's talking about is one of my childhood best friends. And he's been with me for a long time. I didn't know he was with me, but I can feel him now, and I never knew. And there was a few times in my life that I remembered him, and I was thinking about what some of the things we went through, and I never understood those things until today. Right before this podcast. But as I asked her, I already knew the answer. I said, who are we talking about?" And before it was like almost like he yelled at me because I've been just tuning in, you know, to listen to the subtle messages that we bluntly ignore all the time, you know. And she told me it was him, and it was just I broke down. I broke down crying, and she could feel the the spirit, and essentially that's what it is like we all are tuned in on a deep, deep level. People just don't want to do it because they're stuck in a materialistic world.
Yeah, I don't think it's that they don't want to do it. I think it's just because they don't realize it's there.
Well, they're uneducated. Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, just don't
and a lot of
realize
it
it.
is they're uneducated.
Yeah,
You're
just
right.
don't realize that it's there. Because I had no clue either until I started changing my way of life and started getting in
It's a
front of
lot of work.
people and different things. Well, it's constant work. It's
Yeah,
constant. It's people who are in recovery like yourself. It's constant work to stay from jumping that line again, right? And going to that other side where you worked your ass off to stay away from. And
right.
it's just as hard for people to also start changing their whole new mindset,
Uh,
of
yeah,
thinking and how they look at life. And it's hard. So for those listeners who don't understand why it's so hard for addicts, no matter what it is that they're battling. We're not just talking drugs and alcohol. We can talk porn. We can talk eating, shopping,
it's
working.
anything.
There's so many, right?
So many
Why
different
it's
traumas. If you
why
eat
it's
too
so
much,
hard. Yeah, it's so hard. Work on changing your life and see how tough it is. However, the people that I get to work with, I like to say to them, don't think about how hard it is.
no,
Open your eyes and just enjoy the journey. Just
yeah,
enjoy the whole flipping journey. Because if you look at it in a different
it's
way,
all
you
coming.
look at it in that way, it's almost like putting chocolate syrup on your chocolate ice cream. That's how I like to say it because I'm addicted to ice cream, right? It's like that little
Yeah,
extra bonus, and it helps it a little bit more. Or I don't know, maybe that's not a good analogy. Maybe putting sugar on broccoli so it tastes better. It just kind of helps the taste a little bit more.
Well, what I mean, I don't really take it. I understand what you're saying, but what with the way I perceive it, it's like, and I just learned this, and it made so much sense when I thought of it like this. It was like, oh man, I see that apple tree out there. Those look really, really good. I'm gonna walk over there and get me an apple. Eat a few apples. Oh man, my guts hurt. I gotta take a shit. I take a shit right on top of the apple tree, and the apple tree sucks all the nutritions from my body and produces another apple that I eat. That cycle, letting myself remind myself that everything around me that is me. That's the greatest thing, and like we are, you and I are the same. We are divine creatures of a higher calling, and we tend to get lost and forget and have amnesia because we're stuck in a materialistic world.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Andrew, again, man, thank you for your time. We are close to an hour, and I'd love to keep going. However, we both have a call here shortly, another
Yes.
team thing that we've got to get on. So I want to make sure that I'm getting ready for that. But is there any words of wisdom you'd like to share with our listeners before we sign off?
Yeah, today I really invite anybody and everybody that's listening to, or I should say, I invite them to invest in themselves a little bit and do something different if you haven't already. Just take a moment and sit down and close your eyes and just tune into you inside. Intimately look into you. Start looking at things in a manner of what are you trying to show me and what can I learn instead of poor victim type shit, and realizing that, it's like this right here. You're a divine creature and that you are a spiritual being having a human experience to live, laugh, and be loved and show love and know that you are beyond enough, that you are truly divine.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just it's a beautiful thing when you take a look. So
Awesome. Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate your time. And
thank you for having me.
absolutely, absolutely. And again, thank you to all our guests, past guests, all our listeners. You guys are the ones that are making this possible. Past sponsors, guys, thank you so much.
Feel free to reach
And
out, guys.
what's that?
Feel anyone listening need help, or feel free to reach out at any time. So
There you go. And guys, again, mark your calendars. October 5th,
October 5th,
Healing Utah Success Summit. Got their
be
fourth
there
summit
or
coming up.
be.
Sandy, Utah. It's on a Saturday. It's from 10:30 to about 3:30, guys. Watch the social media. You'll see it all over social media. Or you can go to the Healing Utah Success Summit Facebook. You'll see it on there. Guys, come out and be inspired. We've got some great speakers out there for you, and it's just going to be an amazing event. So
It's
October
gonna be awesome.
at the Miller Free Enterprise Building. So, guys, thank you for everything, and remember this: addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one